I didn't lose my marriage in a fight. I lost it to a punchline. At a downtown Austin wedding. Under chandelier light, my wife laughed into another man's shoulder, and when someone asked if she was married, she said, "Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring." People chuckled. I memorized the sound. I'm Ethan, and that's the moment I stopped being a husband and started being a witness. No scene, no smashed glasses, just a nod across the room and the quiet click of a door closing somewhere inside me. You want drama? Here it is. I walked out without touching my drink. In the elevator, I took off my ring and stared at the circle it left on my skin. By the time her song hit the chorus, I was in the parking garage, car keys in hand, calm. If you think that was the end, you're wrong. That laugh, it was a fuse. Watch what it lit. I'm Ethan Miller, a software engineer in Austin, the kind of guy who fixes the Wi-Fi and grills on Sundays. My life used to run on schedules, code reviews at 10 gym at 6 steaks on the patio by 7:30. I liked the quiet rhythm. My dad called it steady hands, and I wore that like a badge. Rachel used to say she loved that about me, how I could calm a room just by showing up. We had a little house west of town, a black lab named Cooper, and a whiteboard on the fridge with grocery lists and weekend plans. It wasn't flashy, but it felt solid. That's the word I keep coming back to, solid. The kind of solid that lets you sleep through storms. Back then, I thought storms come and go if the beams are good. I didn't realize the rot doesn't start with thunder. It starts with small leaks you don't see until the ceiling bows. Rachel worked in PR, and she was good at it. Fast, smile, fast answers, faster calendar. She could work a room the way a DJ works a crowd. She tracked birthdays, sent flowers, knew which wine to order for which client. I admired that. It felt like the opposite of my world where you talk more to screens than people. She craved momentum, and I was her pit stop, fuel tires, and a clean windshield. At least that's how I framed it to make sense of the late nights and just one more event. I told myself this was teamwork. She chased the spotlight. I kept the lights on. For a while, it worked. But PR runs on appearances, and appearances ask for more every quarter. The selfies got brighter. The captions got cuter. The dinners bled into after parties. And somewhere in that glow, I noticed something dimming at home. She didn't turn off the lamp when she left the room. She stopped saying, "Text me when you land." Little bulbs flickered. We had a great first couple of years, the kind where you remember burned pancakes like they're postcards. We road tripped down Highway 1 in a rental Jeep that rattled over every bridge. We got stuck in a Colorado snow squall and laughed ourselves warm in a motel with a broken heater. We hosted Thanksgiving, butchered the turkey carving, and survived my uncle's politics. We learned each other's coffee orders and preferred sides of the bed. It wasn't a movie montage, but it was ours, and it felt honest. When friends fought, we were the couple that shared umbrella duty in the parking lot. We built small rituals that felt like promises. Friday movie night, no phones. Sunday morning walks with Cooper, kiss before leaving, even in a hurry. Those rituals were anchors, but anchors don't matter if you quietly cut the rope. I didn't know it yet, but one by one, those simple promises were going to get traded for "I'm running late." Enter Jake Turner, Rachel's best friend from college. He was charming in the way a bar tab disappears fast and unnoticed until the bill arrives. Big laugh, bigger stories. He knew all the bartenders by name and every shortcut through traffic. When she introduced us, I shook his hand and clocked the friendly squeeze, the easy eye contact. No alarms. I've worked with plenty of loud extroverts. Most are harmless. Rachel said he'd been a constant through hard years, internships, breakups, one flooded apartment. I told myself every marriage needs outside friendships, and trust is the only way to have a life. So I leaned on that. I invited him to a backyard game, handed him a beer, and meant it. He was good with Cooper too, which earned points. If there was a line, it was invisible. If there was a problem, it wore cologne and high-fived everyone. I didn't know the tab was open. I didn't know who'd be paying it. Trust is quiet. Suspicion is loud. For months, the house was quiet. Then came the laugh. Not the way she laughed at my bad dad jokes. This was sharper, like a glass chipped at the rim. It came when her phone lit up with Jake T. It came in the kitchen, in the car, on the couch, during a show we used to watch together. I told myself, they're just close. It's fine. She tilted her screen away without thinking, the way you shield a candle from wind. Notifications flipped from banners to silent dots. At dinner, she repeated a Jake one-liner, then another, like reruns. "He's just funny," she said. "He might be. But humor is never free. It buys attention. I paid with mine. I adjusted like men do. I did the dishes, folded laundry, cleared space. I thought space would help. Instead, space became a stage, and I wasn't invited backstage anymore." The laugh kept ringing. Something hairline had cracked. It's a strange feeling to be a guest in your own home. You know where the forks are, you can operate the thermostat, but you start asking permission in your head. Can I mention that bill? Can I suggest Friday in not Friday out? You measure your words like salt. I'd sit at the kitchen island while she texted across from me, both of us upright, both of us absent. Cooper would bring me the leash, a dog's version of a solution, so I'd walk him around the block and try to name what I felt. Not jealousy, not even anger, more like getting benched in a game you train for. The scoreboard keeps moving without you. The mail still arrives. The sprinklers still run, but the playbook changed and no one told you. I looked at our framed photos, the road trip, Thanksgiving, the snow motel, and felt the frames holding on harder than we were. That's when the couch started to feel too big. I come from a family that believes in fixes. My dad patched roofs himself. My mom kept ledgers on paper because she trusted what she could touch. So I tried fixes, date night reservations, leave her a note mornings, repairing a loose cabinet door she'd mentioned once and forgotten. I offered a weekend in the hill country cabins and quiet. She countered with, "Jake says the new coastal resort is amazing." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a verdict dressed like a vote. We went to the coast. She took photos of sunsets I watched with my own eyes, then sent them to him with captions. I learned you can share the same ocean and live on different shores. Back home, I kept searching for the lever that made us us again. There was no lever, just a slow conveyor belt moving away from solid ground. I told myself to wait it out. Time fixes hairline cracks, but time was water and the leak was widening. This is where men my age will understand there's a point you stop arguing and start observing. You build a quiet ledger, not to weaponize, just to see clearly. I noted the tilted phone, the new passwords, the way she compared my choices to what Jake would have done as if I were a draft pick under review. I clocked the late returns, the sudden work, drinks, the perfume that arrived home before she did. Then I tracked myself, my pulse during conversations, my urge to fix, to chase, to plead. Every time I swallowed a question, I wrote down the feeling instead. No slammed doors, no raised voice, just facts in a plain notebook. Men are taught to man up. I did, but not the way movies show. I didn't throw a punch. I turned on a light. Clarity is brutal, but it doesn't break furniture. It breaks denial. And when denial breaks, decisions become possible. The realization didn't arrive as a siren. It arrived as a checklist. If love is care plus respect, we still had care bills paid, lawn mowed, birthdays remembered. Respect had left the building. Once I said that sentence out loud in the car, everything sorted itself. I booked a consult with a lawyer, a friend recommended just to understand the field, assets, liabilities, the home I'd bought before our vows. I opened separate accounts at a new bank. I adjusted direct deposits. I left enough in the joint account to keep peace while I found mine. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was building an exit that didn't explode. At night, I lay next to a woman I loved and felt like a tenant waiting for a lease to end. That's the climax of this stretch, not a fight, but a decision. No more patch jobs. No more hoping the leak dries up on its own. From here on, I move with steady hands. Comparison is a slow knife. It started small, Rachel holding up a paint swatch and saying Jake would go bolder. Then it moved to restaurants' weekend plans, even how I fold towels. Jake does the hotel roll, she laughed, refolding mine like a demo. I told myself it was harmless, people compare. But comparison is a scoreboard, and once it lights up, someone's losing. At dinner, she'd mention how Jake always finds the fun. Like fun was a trophy I never trained for. I tried to smile to let it slide, to pick my battles. But you can only laugh off a tally so long before you realize you're the stat line. Older guys will get this. Sometimes it's not the big insult. It's the steady downgrade. A joke here, an eye roll there, like rust spreading under clean paint. The climax came when she said Jake would have booked the rooftop. I heard it clear as a buzzer. I wasn't a husband in that sentence. I was a benchmark. When marriage gets shaky, most men try repairs. I planned a quiet Friday, her favorite takeout, that movie she said she missed. Halfway through, she paused, checked a notification, and said, Jake just sent the funniest thing. I nodded, swallowed the rest of my sentence. Saturday, I asked for a no-phones morning. She agreed, then just one text became a half-hour scroll. I wasn't trying to cage her. I was trying to find our room in a house filling with guests. I booked a cooking class, figured learning something messy together might loosen the knots. We laughed at the burnt sauce, but when we got home, she posted a photo and tagged Jake. He'd love this place, she said. That was the climax for me, realizing every fix I offered got routed through him like I needed sign-off. Repairs only work if both hands are on the same wrench. Hers were busy typing. Mine were learning to let go. Our 4th anniversary was coming up, and I wanted it to matter. I mapped a cabin trip in the Hill Country Live Oaks, a porch swing, a little river you can hear before you see. I pictured coffee at sunrise, no makeup, no meetings, just the old rhythm finding us again. I researched trails, packed the mocha pot, even brought the blanket we used on our first picnic. When I showed Rachel the photos, she smiled politely the way you smile at a neighbor's slideshow. "Cute," she said. But Jake says the new coastal resort is unreal. That name again like a signature at the bottom of our plans. I pitched the quiet. She pitched the scene. We compromised the modern way she booked the resort while calling it our choice. The climax wasn't the decision. It was the word she used, upgrade. Somewhere our marriage became a package you can swap for a premium. I stared at the cabin photo, and it felt like a receipt. The resort was all glass and angles, the kind of place that photographs better than it sleeps. Rachel moved through the lobby like a producer on opening night, checking lighting angles, mirrors. I carried the bags and the silence. Our room had ocean views and a speaker that never shut up. She queued playlists, then messages, then DMs the phone like a second guest on our key card. We hit the pool. She hit her camera roll. I ordered drinks. She ordered captions. Jake says, try the ceviche she called from a lounger, thumb flying. I realized I didn't hate the resort. I hated the feeling that we'd rented a set where our roles had been rewritten. Masrairun. The climax came at dinner when she held the menu like it was optional and said, let's order what Jake recommended. The waiter wrote it down. My fork felt heavy. I kept hearing the word upgrade in the clink of glass. I couldn't taste a bite. Cold can happen in August. That weekend, the AC wasn't the only thing humming. We sat side by side on the beach and watched 2 different oceans. I skimmed stones. She skimmed notifications. I tried a story about my dad teaching me to body surf here when I was a kid, how he'd say, feel the pull, then push. She nodded, eyes on the phone. That's sweet. Sweet is what you call a memory when you don't intend to keep it. Back in the room, I set my phone face up on the nightstand like an invitation. Hers stayed face down, screen pulsing with private weather. Older men know this feeling you're present, but you're not received. The climax wasn't a fight. It was an inventory. In that room, I took stock. Her laughter belonged elsewhere. My steadiness had no seat. You can't hold a marriage alone. Try and you're just hugging a shadow, wondering why your arms get so tired. Invisible has weight. You feel it in your shoulders when no one's looking at you. I held doors, grabbed towels, built a sandcastle with a moat that the tide politely ignored. She took selfies where my elbow made cameo appearances. We passed couples holding hands and trading inside jokes, and I kept walking, counting seagulls because counting gives your brain a job when your heart doesn't have one. At breakfast, she laughed at her phone, that glass rectangle that now fed her more than I did. You had to be there, she said when I asked. I was there. That was the point. The climax landed over pancakes, she said. You don't have to plan so much. We'll figure it out. We. She meant her and a crowd I couldn't see. I nodded and poured syrup I couldn't taste. The thing about being invisible is you start to see everything, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Men don't like to talk about erosion of self, but it happens. You shave a little quieter, you laugh a beat later. You measure how much space you take up in a photo. Pride becomes a thermostat you keep turning down, trying to save the room. I thought about work where respect is explicit in code reviews, in deadlines met. Home had become a place where my contributions were assumed, my presence optional. I remembered my father's hand scarred from real tools and wondered what I'd hand down if I stayed like this, a masterclass in fading out. That thought hit hard. The climax arrived back home in Austin when I set my keys in the bowl and didn't recognize the sound. It used to mean safe. Now it meant stand by. I looked at the whiteboard with our grocery list. Her line said limes for Margs, Jake's recipe. I erased it without thinking. The dry squeak felt like a small alarm. On the last night of the resort, Rachel drank too fast on a rooftop dotted with string lights, those pretty lies that make every table feel like a promise. The band played covers. Somebody at the next table proposed. Strangers clapped. Rachel swayed and leaned close, conspiratorial, like we were sharing something. Jake just gets me. She said the words slow, the smile quicker. Maybe it was the tequila, maybe it was the altitude of attention, but it landed like a headline I'd been editing around. I watched the horizon swallow the sun and heard my own voice say nothing. Older men know this move. You put the truth on a shelf because you can't lift it yet. The climax was internal, a clean, quiet click. Not rage, not despair, just a door somewhere down the hall closing. The song changed. We didn't. I tipped the bartender, steadied her elbow to the elevator, and realized I was steadying a person walking away from me. Silence can be strategy. Back home, I didn't stage a confrontation or comb through her phone. I made lists, practical ones, boring to anyone who hasn't paid for their mistakes in installments. Separate accounts. A legal consult. A plan to keep the house if things went sideways. I started storing receipts in a folder marked home because words get slippery, but numbers don't. I shifted autopays left just enough in the joint account to keep peace. I didn't flinch at her smiles. I didn't chase her laughter. I cooked, cleaned, walked. Cooper went to the gym. Routine isn't surrender. It's cover while you build the exit. The climax of this stretch wasn't a dramatic line. It was a posture. Back straight. Voice level. Eyes open. I stopped trying to win back a room that wasn't mine anymore. I started preparing to leave it in one piece. That's a different kind of strength, the kind no one applauds until much later. I'm not angry. I told myself driving down Mopac at dusk, dashboard glowing like a low-fire promise. I'm done being surprised. There's power in naming your season. Mine wasn't revenge, it was clarity. If love requires respect, then love without it is a costume. I could keep wearing it for the photos, or I could hang it up and own the mirror. That night, I laid beside Rachel and listened to her breathe like waves hitting a shore I couldn't stand on. I counted 4, then 6, then 8, the way you count before a heavy lift. The climax came as a sentence I said out loud to an empty room. No more patching. I felt my shoulders drop. I pictured the cabin we didn't visit, the porch swing that never creaked, and promised myself a different kind of quiet. Not the quiet of being ignored, the quiet of being free to hear your own voice. From here, I would move on purpose. The first appointment was a Tuesday at 9 a.m., a strip mall law office beside a dentist and a dry cleaner. Ordinary is where real decisions happen. I brought a yellow legal pad and wrote down what mattered: the house, the retirement accounts, the truck, Cooper. The attorney was calm, the way people get when they've seen every version of panic. He asked questions. I answered like I was reading a meter clear, no emotion. Texas is community property, but your home predates the marriage, he said. Foundation intact. He explained what to document and what to ignore, how to stop guessing and start recording. No drama, just steps. I realized I wasn't asking for permission to leave. I was learning how not to light the place on fire on my way out. Walking to the parking lot, I felt lighter, not because it would be easy, but because it would be knowable. The climax was a simple sentence. You'll be fine. I believed him before I believed myself. The house was my anchor, bought in my 30s before Rachel, before the whiteboard lists. I remembered sanding the banister with my dad's old palm sander, the one that vibrates your teeth if you grip it wrong. The deed has my name on it. The mortgage was already a memory. The lawyer called that separate property. I called it air. I walked room to room that night, touching door frames like a coach, tapping helmets before a game. This wasn't about throwing anyone out. It was about staying upright when the wind shifted. I opened the file cabinet, checked the deed, ran my thumb along the embossed seal like a worry stone. The climax wasn't triumph. It was relief, the kind that comes when you realize one good decision years ago just saved your future self. Men my age know that feeling. You can't control much, but you can control where you plant your feet. I planted them here just long enough to move them wisely. Money is plumbing. When the pipes run right, you don't talk about them. I opened new accounts at a bank across town, the kind with free coffee and the same pen chained to the desk in every branch. I rerouted direct deposit, redirected autopays, and left enough in the joint account to keep the daily noise low. The manager said, "Anything else I can help with?" I almost said, "A time machine." Instead, I asked for alerts on every transaction. Back home, I labeled folders, savings, checking taxes, like a dad labeling camping bins. It wasn't romantic. It was responsible. Older guys will get that truth. Romance is fragile. Responsibility keeps the lights on. The climax came when I watched the first paycheck hit the new account. It felt like a valve turning pressure, easing in a system I didn't trust anymore. I wasn't starving anyone. I was feeding a future I could live with. The pipes hummed. For the first time in months, I did too. Words twist. Screenshots don't. I started a clean folder on my laptop titled Records Nothing Spicy. Just dates, receipts, calendar, invites. The kind of paper trail that holds when stories wobble. I printed a few key emails and put them in a plain manila envelope because printers, for all their sins, make things real. When she posted a photo from a work mixer that looked a lot like a rooftop party, I didn't argue. I saved it. When texts came with punchlines that erased me from our plans, Jake says, I didn't rebut. I logged the timestamp. Men are taught to fix with persuasion. Evidence fixes with clarity. The climax wasn't a gotcha. It was a quiet standard. If this ever became a debate about who remembered what, I'd let the paper remember for me. That night, I slid the envelope into a fireproof box behind the holiday decorations. I closed the lid and felt the sound of certainty, a soft metal click, small but final. Meanwhile, Rachel spun faster launch parties, client dinners, charity galas where everyone takes photos of the photo booth. Her calendar was a skyline. Mine was ground level. She asked if I could pick up her dress from alterations. I said sure. I wasn't bitter. I was busy. Busy making sure Cooper had his vet visit, the tires were rotated, the lawn guy got paid. It's amazing how normal life looks while it tilts. She didn't notice the small shifts, me using a different debit card, the new bank app on my phone, the way I stopped asking, "What time will you be home?" The climax happened at 11:38 p.m. when she breezed in, kissed the air near my cheek, and said, "You're the best." I smiled and meant it in a new way. I am. Not better than anyone, just better than this habit of being less than myself. She went to wash off her makeup. I went back to balancing the books, mine, not ours. Jake was a steady presence without ever being present. His name lived in our kitchen like a magnet on the fridge, harmless, inevitable, always in the corner of your eye. Rachel sent me links, he'd sent her recommendations, he'd made jokes he'd told. I learned his taste by proxy: tequila over bourbon lime, over lemon rooftop, over backyard. I didn't compete. I archived. Competing would make him central. I refused to center what I didn't respect. Instead, I centered plans that did not require anyone's approval. New gym routine, quarterly budget review, a weekend to clean the garage. Men 30 to 65 know the comfort of a swept floor and labeled shelves. Order is therapy you can touch. The climax came when I found a stack of flat-packed moving boxes I'd bought for a project and never used. I slid a box free and leaned it against the wall. Not a threat, a reminder. One day these would carry a life to the door. Mine would stay. I got quieter, not the sulking kind, useful quiet, the kind that lets you hear your own engine. I answered questions with answers, not invitations to argue. I kept my voice low and my schedule predictable, up early. Coffee, black. Cooper walked before sunrise, the streets soft and empty, like a reset button. In that blue hour, I rehearsed calm breathing, counting streetlights, picturing conversations I wouldn't have to raise my voice to win. At work, I shipped code and skipped gossip. At home, I cooked simple cast iron skillet, salt, pepper done. The climax wasn't visible. It was a shift in weight. When Rachel tried a little jab, "You never want to go out," I didn't defend the history books. I said, "That's how I'm built," and let the silence stand. Quiet can be a wall or a room. I made it a room where I could think. In that room, the plan breathed, got its feet under it, and waited for the signal. Living in two worlds changes how you hold a door. In one, you're still the husband, carry the groceries, fix the Wi-Fi sign, the birthday card. In the other, you're a project manager for your own exit logins, folders, contingency plans. I move between them like lanes on the highway, blink, check shift. The overlap felt strange. I'd be trimming hedges while calculating timelines. I'd be booking a vet appointment while noting the next legal step. Older men will recognize the sensation you're present and already gone. Both true, both necessary. The climax arrived on a Wednesday when I caught my reflection in the microwave, tie, loosened jaw set, and thought, "You look like a man commuting between cities." I smiled at the honesty of it. I wasn't sneaking. I was transitioning. There's dignity in building a bridge instead of jumping. I wiped the microwave, finished the dishes, and emailed myself the latest bank statement. 2 worlds, 1 spine. Both would be needed soon. Preparation isn't courage. It's mercy on yourself on the moment that's coming. I called the locksmith I'd used before and saved his number under a contractor alias. I tested the smart lock app, noted how fast a code can be added and removed. I inventoried the garage tape markers, bubble wrap those flat boxes waiting patiently. I created a contacts list labeled Need to Know with the lawyer, the bank manager, the moving company I trusted. No one got a call yet. This was rehearsal. In the evenings, I walked Cooper past the same porch with the same wind chimes, thinking about how endings deserve clean edges. The climax came when I timed myself how long to change the garage code, how long to disable a key fob, 5 minutes to redraw a map of who belongs where. I wasn't gloating. I was grieving efficiently. People think men don't feel. We do. We just build containers strong enough to carry it to the curb. All I needed was a moment that told the truth out loud. Not a rumor, not a hunch. A sentence wove in air I could share. I didn't hunt for it. I knew it would arrive the way thunderstorms do in Texas blue sky, then a bruise rolling over the horizon. So I waited, steady hands on the wheel routine, holding the line. I kept my ring on, kept my promises, kept my eyes open. The night before the wedding, I ironed my shirt and polished my shoes like my father taught me, because endings shouldn't make you sloppy. I slept fine. Morning came with coffee and a dog that still needed to go out. The climax of this chapter is patience. The old me wanted proof to stop hurting. The new me wanted proof to make the next move clean. One moment I told myself locking the door behind me. One reason. And then we're done. I didn't know it yet, but I was right. The Driscoll looks like old money learned to charm new cameras, marble floors, velvet chairs, ceilings that make you straighten your posture. I arrived early because that's what steady men do. I checked our table card, handed the gift to the planner, and fixed a crooked boutonniere on the groom like I was tightening a loose hinge. The band warmed up with Sinatra. The bartender practiced martinis like a promise. I could smell cedar from the polished banisters and a hint of vanilla from candles lined along the hallway. Rachel lit up the moment we stepped inside like the building had been waiting for her. She touched mirrors to check lipstick, adjusted her dress with that quick tug she does, and launched into hugs that looked like photo ops. I patted my pocket for the ring out of habit. Cooper's fur was on my sleeve. I brushed it off and smiled. Nights like this test your balance. Mine felt steady right up until the music hit full volume. Chandeliers sprinkle light like confetti you can't sweep up. Everything feels invited to shine. The band eased into a Motown groove, and the dance floor turned into a moving postcard. I stood by the edge with a club soda, a habit from years of wanting a clear head in crowded rooms. Rachel drifted into the swell like a leaf to a current, spinning, laughing, tossing hair, the way you do when you know eyes are on you. I watched the DJ read the crowd, watch the caterer glide with trays of tiny miracles on skewers. There's comfort in noticing the workers. We speak the same language, timelines, tools, results. A friend slapped my shoulder, said, "Big night." Huh. I nodded the kind of nod that says more than words. Older guys know this posture. You let the party be the party while you take its temperature. Mine rose a degree when I saw a familiar silhouette join her in the lights. Jake showed up like a chorus, entering at the hook, loud, perfectly timed, ready for applause. He swept Rachel into a two-step that looked rehearsed. Her smile turned to 11. They spun, dipped, clapped along. The crowd loved it because crowds love confidence. I watched the room bend toward them, the way a field leans in a strong wind. I told myself what I always tell myself, let her have her fun. You're not in competition with the spotlight. Still, I felt the small pinch of being edited out of a photo you're standing in. I finished my drink and switched to water without the lime this time. The band leader yelled, "One more," and they obliged tighter, closer, her hand threading the back of his neck like she was reading Braille. I counted the beat the way my dad taught me when fixing engine's rhythm tells you what's off. The beat was fine. Something else wasn't. I moved closer to the bar, where words get overheard. Bars at weddings are confessionals with better lighting. People lean in, ask bold questions, speak in half whispers they think disappear into ice. I stood a step back, a habit from years of letting noise filter into signal. A woman in a silver dress pointed at Rachel's ring, smiling the polite smile of a stranger making conversation. "Are you two married?" she asked, light, harmless, the kind of question you answer without thinking. I expected Rachel to point toward me. Instead, she glanced at Jake, grinned, and paused like a comic milking a crowd. The room hummed glass laughter baseline. My heartbeat didn't speed up, my attention sharpened. This is the part older men will recognize when time slows just enough to show you the hinges. I could smell the lime wedges, hear the shaker, feel the marble under my shoes. It's extraordinary how much you can notice while your life prepares to change. She leaned in, conspiratorial, and opened her mouth. "Oh, I'm married," she said, tilting her head toward the lights. Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring." The words didn't stab, they landed flat final like a stamp on a document you hoped wouldn't be processed. A tight circle laughed, that careful social chuckle people use when they're not sure who's the target. I became the negative space. Somewhere a cork popped, somewhere else the band hit a horn line. My chest didn't burn, it cleared. I took one slow breath and memorized the exact tone of her fake laugh, high, practiced, brittle, at the edge. Men my age will understand sometimes the insult isn't the wound, it's the permission. I raised my glass once, not a toast, a receipt, then set it down. Across the room, she caught my eye. I gave the smallest nod of my life, the kind you use to acknowledge a final reading of terms. Agreement accepted. The song kept going. I turned toward the exit and found the air easy to breathe. I didn't storm out. I settled. There's a difference. The room got brighter somehow, and my pulse got slower, like my body knew the drill before my brain did. I stood still long enough to feel my feet in my shoes. Then I gave that small nod, barely there, the kind you use with a neighbor when you both know the fence is fine and the conversation is over. That was my contract ending. I didn't look for allies. I didn't look for her eyes again. I set my glass on the bar, lined it with the edge the way my dad taught me to line a board before a cut. Clean lines make clean exits. Older guys will understand the moment you stop arguing with reality, your hands get steady. The climax of this minute was a choice without fireworks. Walk, not talk. I turned toward the hallway past the framed photos of old Texas governors and let the party keep its music without me. The Driscoll's hallway felt like a church. After service, echoes, shoe taps, whispers that didn't know where to go. I walked it alone, tie loosened jacket over my shoulder, the way men have walked away from things for as long as buildings have had exits. In the elevator, I watched the numbers descend like a countdown to a quieter life. My reflection in the brass looked tired, not broken. That mattered to me. I keyed into our room and didn't turn on every light, just the lamp by the bed. The bed was perfectly made, like housekeeping believed in second chances. I set my wallet and keys in a line, a small ritual of control. No texts, no calls, no speech, prepared for later. The climax here was ritual meeting reality. I opened the nightstand, took out the hotel notepad, and wrote one sentence I could live by. No more pretending. I tore it off, folded it twice, and put it in my pocket. I sat on the edge of the bed and took off my ring. Not dramatic thumb twist lift. Skin remembers what jewelry claims. There was a pale circle like a tan line at the truth. I held the ring flat in my palm and thought about Saturday mornings at Home Depot, about Thanksgiving laughs, about Cooper's head in my lap when the Cowboys lose. The ring didn't contain those. I did. I set it on the dresser, and the click sounded like closing a glove box before a long drive, tidy necessary. It felt like taking off a costume I said out loud, and the room didn't argue. That was the climax, understanding I hadn't become someone else tonight. I'd stopped pretending to be the man who could fix this alone. I packed a small bag with the calm of a checklist toothbrush charger, one clean shirt. No rummaging, no second guessing. I turned off the lamp and let the dark sit with me without winning. Leaving a hotel at night is a special kind of quiet, the kind that respects decisions. I checked out at the desk, slid the keycard across, and thanked the clerk who didn't ask questions. Outside, Austin hummed low tires on Congress Avenue, a distant siren laughter smudged by distance. I walked the garage rows like a man who'd parked his old life and remembered where. The car door thunked closed with that solid, reassuring sound older cars make when they still have real metal in them. I didn't turn on the radio. I set my phone face down and let the dash glow, feel like a campfire. hands at 10 and 2, just like my dad taught me in a truck that smelled like sawdust and coffee. The climax of this minute was the engine settling into its idle and me matching it steady, controlled, unhurried. I put the car in reverse, checked the mirror, and rolled out without leaving rubber or regret. The drive home was all Texas night and straight lines. Mopac at 11 p.m. is a ribbon you can trust, headlights spaced like metronomes, exits arriving right where they should. I passed places that once held us, our taco spot, the park where Cooper chased a tennis ball like it was purpose. I didn't narrate memories. I let them ride shotgun and keep quiet. The AC was a low river. The city fell away in increments until it was just me, asphalt, and a future that finally had room to speak. Men my age will know this piece after the noise, the hum. The climax was small and absolute. No music, no muttering, not even a prayer for strength. Just breathing that matched the white lane markers ticking by. When I pulled onto our street, the trees arched like they always had. The house waited, not warm, not cold, honest. I killed the engine and sat in extra beat, hands loose now. Then I went in. The house greeted me with its usual chimed beep, the soft kind that says, "You belong here." I set my keys in the bowl and walked straight to the smart panel in the kitchen, same place I check the thermostat when summer tries to win. The screen lit up familiar, practical. I scrolled to users, found Rachel's profile, the one I'd set up with her birthday because it was easy to remember. My thumb hovered, then pressed remove. The panel asked, "Are you sure I heard my dad's voice from years ago? Measure twice, cut once." I read it again. Yes. The beep changed one tone, down one tone up, like the system was clearing its throat. No confetti, no fireworks, just a house resetting the facts. Older men will know this feeling. Not victory, not spite, alignment. The climax was the silence after, different than the driveway quiet. It was the sound a space makes when it recognizes its owner. I stood still and let it register. Next came the garage, the heartbeat of any Texas house. I hit the side door, flipped on the work light, and the concrete glowed like an honest floor. Tools on the pegboard, extra air filter, that stubborn rake with one bent tine. I opened the keypad manual I'd taped inside a cabinet years ago, future-proofing myself without knowing it. Code change took less than a minute. Old digits out, new pattern in twice. I tested it with the door down and felt that satisfying thunk when it settled. Back inside, I matched the codes on the smart lock, so the front and garage spoke the same language. It felt like syncing watches before a job. Nothing sneaky, just making sure the home listened to the right voice. The climax arrived when I disabled the old key fob in the app and heard the tiny relay click in the door. That click was a line drawn with a carpenter's pencil, dark, straight, permanent enough. Locks make a clean argument. I walked room to room, checking windows the way dads do after 4th of July, when the house smells like smoke and memories. I tightened a loose hinge on the guest room door because small repairs are how men breathe. Then I sat at the desk, opened the laptop, and logged into the bank. My name on the masthead, our joint account in the sidebar. I wasn't rating, I was reallocating. I moved the balance to my personal account, left a cushion for any autopays I hadn't rerouted yet, electric, water, the boring heroes. Then I opened the credit card dashboard. Rachel's supplementary card sat there like an unlocked drawer. Report card lost, stolen, the button asked. I clicked it. The freeze was instant, the way a pond goes still at first frost. Climax clean and simple, an email ping confirming the change. Not a threat, not a shout. Just systems updating to match the truth we'd both been living. Money is only half of order. Paper is the other half. I filed the bank confirmations in a folder labeled House Current, the way you label holiday lights and thank yourself in December. I printed the transaction logs because paper has a way of staying honest when memories get creative. Then I opened a second folder, Records. Screenshots, date stamps, the kind of facts that don't care about opinions. I didn't gloat. I didn't narrate. I stacked. Men 30 to 65 understand this rhythm. Coffee receipts, a pen that writes every time, the weight of a good stapler. I checked the smart door camera feed porch. Empty street. Quiet wind nudging the oak like a neighbor with something kind to say. The climax was a checklist moment. Lawyer emailed receipts, saved, accounts secured. I drew a small box beside. Secure the home and filled it in. That little square felt like a mile. I exhaled and looked at the garage where the next job waited. Boxes make endings manageable. I pulled the flat-packed stack from the shelf and sliced the tape with the same pocket knife I've had since college. Fold, press tape 3, motion steady, repeat. I set up a staging area in the living room, wardrobe boxes by the hall, small ones for bottles and frames bubble wrap like snowdrifts. Then I started closet first. Dresses off hangers, shoes nested heel to toe, a zippered pouch for jewelry she didn't wear but would ask about. Bathroom neck serums in sleeves, caps tightened labels facing up. Home office notebooks, pens the candle she lit for vibes when she worked. I wasn't angry. I was an estate manager for a life, moving to a new address. Older men will know this grace, treat the objects kindly, even if the story wasn't. The climax came when I labeled the first stack Rachel Closet 1 of 42. The numbers made it finite. I lined the boxes along the wall, neat as soldiers, then kept going. Morning came like a report, do no drama, just the next line in the plan. I brewed coffee the way I always do, 2 scoops slow, pour the kitchen filling with a smell that means home. My phone lit up before the first sip. Rachel. Then again. Then again. I let it ring twice and answered on the third with a steady, "Yeah." Her voice came fast, thin. "My card's not working. The hotel desk says it's declined. What did you do?" I looked at the steam rising from the mug and said, "I updated my life." She fired back words like confetti accusations, questions, a joke about me overreacting. Older men will know this pattern when the music stops. The dancer blames the floor. I didn't argue. "You said our marriage doesn't count." I told her, calm as the countertop under my hand. "So it doesn't." The climax of this minute was silence, the kind where 2 people hear the same sentence and finally agree on what it means. The banging started 10 minutes later, front door first, then the bell, then the door again. I set my cup down, walked to the entry and checked the camera feed. Rachel on the porch, hair pulled back, makeup from last night, softened into something rougher. "Ethan, open up." She yelled, voice cracking against the wood like a thrown plate. I unlocked the storm door, but not the deadbolt, and stood where she could see me through the glass. "What is this?" she demanded. "A boundary," I said. She rattled the handle and tried a laugh I didn't recognize. "This is childish." I shook my head. "No. Childish is pretending a joke erased a promise." Her eyes searched mine for the old script appease, explain, reset. I didn't hand it to her. Older guys will understand the climax here, not the line you say, but the one you don't cross. I kept my voice low. "We're done pretending." The door stayed closed. So did the part of me that used to open. She switched tactics, tears now, softer voice, palm flat to the glass. "You're scaring me," she said. "You can't lock me out of my life?" I nodded once. "You stepped out first. I just stopped holding the door." She called me controlling. I offered facts. "Your access codes are removed. Your card is frozen. Your belongings are packed. You're not trapped. You're free." She blinked, thrown by the word. Free isn't the cage people expect. "Ethan, be reasonable," she tried. "This was a joke. You misheard." I held up my phone. I heard every word. So did half that ballroom. Her face changed a flicker, like a light that knows the power's about to go. Men 30 to 65 will feel this beat when you choose clarity over comfort and the room changes shape. The climax arrived in the line I'd rehearsed, only to keep it honest. "You said our marriage doesn't count. I'm honoring that." The house behind me felt still, and on my side, a car door slammed. Jake. He jogged up the walk with the swagger of a lifeguard late to the pool. "Dude, this is insane," he said through the glass like we were frat brothers debating a cover charge. "Let her in, we can talk." I looked at him the way you look at a commercial you've seen too many times. "There's nothing to talk about." He grinned, tried to lower his voice like a secret might fix it. "You're being dramatic." I almost laughed at the word me, dramatic, the man speaking at room temperature with a coffee cooling behind him. Rachel nodded beside him, eager for a tag team. "See? He's not himself." I met her eyes. I am exactly myself, for the first time in a long time. Older men know the climax here when the outside consultant loses his contract. "You don't live here," I told Jake. "You never did." He opened his mouth for one more idea. I turned away and let the door do the talking. I stepped to the side so they could see into the garage through the window rows of boxes, neat as a decision. Labels hand-lettered, Rachel, Closet 1 of 42, Office 2 of 42, Bath 3 of 42, Order you can read without arguing. "Everything you own is in 42 boxes," I said. "A moving company comes tomorrow at 9. 3 months of storage is paid. You'll get the unit number by text." She started to cry in big public sobs. Jake moved to put an arm around her and looked at me like he'd won something. I didn't give him a score. "The joint account is empty. Your card is canceled. Papers go out Monday." I kept my tone simple, like confirming a dentist appointment. The climax was the last kindness I could offer and still mean it. Have a nice life. Not spit, not spite, release. I slid the deadbolt, let the lock click like a period, and walked back to my cooling coffee. Outside, the knocking stopped. Inside, my hands were steady. By afternoon, the story had already grown legs. Rachel posted a soft focus selfie with a cryptic caption about control and safety. Jake chimed in with a bro parable about jealousy. A couple we barely know commented with prayer hands. That's how these things start: vague smoke. Then people assume there's fire. Older men will recognize the move, reframe the scene, so the calm guy becomes the threat. My phone buzzed with messages wrapped like concern but shaped like accusations. "What happened? We heard you snapped." I didn't debate in group texts. I brewed another coffee, walked Cooper, and wrote down who said what, when. Silence is a tool if you pair it with notes. The climax came when an old friend messaged, "Tell me your side man." I typed, then deleted. Instead, I replied, "I'll share the facts when I have them neat." It sounded boring. Good. Boring holds up in daylight. I turned off notifications and let the noise talk to itself. The next ripple was family. Her mother left a voicemail heavy with sighs and disappointment, the kind that starts with, "I'm so sad for you both," and lands on, "Be a man and fix this." I saved it to the folder and didn't call back. A couple of Rachel's friends posted sub-tweets about women being punished for having friends. I didn't chase them around the internet. Older guys know this trap. The more you explain to people committed to misunderstanding you, the more you sound guilty. At work, I kept my head down, tickets closed, meetings concise, eyes clear. That evening, I sat on the porch and listened to the neighborhood settle: sprinklers, a kid's laughter, a garage door yawning shut. Life still doing life. The climax of this minute was a choice with no witnesses. I promised myself I wouldn't fight fog with fists. Fog needs a fan. Facts are fans. I went inside, opened my laptop, and started a simple list titled Truth. Truth had columns, date, event, source. I added the bank confirmations, the door camera timestamps, and a short description of the porch scene. No adjectives, just verbs. I tucked in screenshots of friendly DMs that turned hostile overnight because timelines matter when stories flip. Then I made a separate list labeled People Who Matter. It was short. That's the surprise. In middle age, your circle shrinks to those who show up without a costume. I didn't post a manifesto or subtweet a soul. I polished my calm. Men 30 to 65 will get this rhythm coffee gone cold beside a stack of proof you hope you never need. The climax arrived when a thought clicked into place, as neat as a puzzle piece. If the truth exists in the wild, someone recorded it. Weddings are documentaries with cake. Somewhere the laugh lives on camera. I closed the lists, opened a new tab, and typed a name I remembered from the reception like a breadcrumb. Maya. Bride's younger cousin. Phone up all night angles for days. Her Instagram was a timeline of the party sparkler shoes off hairpins in hands. I sent a direct message that wasn't loaded. "Hey, Ethan here. I'm putting together a memory folder for the couple. Any chance you'd share your short clips from the reception? No drama, no hint." She replied in minutes with a link cloud folder, dozens of files labeled by time. I downloaded them, each little rectangle a flashlight. I scrubbed through dance circles, toasts, a tipsy uncle whose jokes aged poorly by midnight. 10 minutes in, I saw the bar in the background of a dance video. Rachel's silhouette, a woman in silver leaning in. I turned up the volume. The room noise was soup, but the mics on modern phones are ruthless. The climax felt like a door unlocking from the inside, the question, the laugh, the line clean, cruel recorded. I paused, exhaled, and clipped 10 seconds. Playback is its own kind of justice. I listened again to make sure it wasn't wishful hearing. "Oh, I'm married." Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring. Laughter, clink end, no edits, no context to muddy it. I didn't race to post. I named the file Saturday Truth 10.mp4 and slid it into the records folder. Then I made a list of recipients short, surgical, the newlyweds, Rachel's parents and sister, and Jake's girlfriend, Emily. Not the public. The circle that counted when it counted. Men my age know the difference between revenge and removal. This wasn't a victory lap. It was clearing my lane. The climax was a text with no adjectives. You've heard things. Here's what I heard. Audio matters. I attached the clip, hit send, then put my phone face down and took Cooper for a long walk as the sun slid behind the oaks. Somewhere the notifications began. In my pocket the phone buzzed. In my chest the noise finally didn't. Replies started before I hit the corner. The bride texted first. No emojis, just, "I'm so sorry. We had no idea." Her husband followed with, "That's not who we are. We'll handle it." Then Rachel's parents stunned dots, then a request to talk. I didn't respond. I saved everything. Emily, Jake's girlfriend, wrote last. "Ethan, thank you for sending me this. I needed the truth." We traded exactly 5 messages hers. Clear, mine cleaner. No adjectives. She asked, "May I use the clip? I thought about dignity, about not becoming what hurt me." "It's yours to decide," I said. Silence, then I'm going to set my own record straight. Older men will know that sound, the hinge when a door chooses its side. I turned off the screen and walked under oaks that have outlived a dozen dramas. The climax came when my phone finally stopped buzzing and started ringing. The newlyweds again. "We're taking action tonight." I nodded to no one. Truth had finally clocked in. By evening, the tide flipped. The newlyweds called Rachel firm, not cruel, and told her she'd crossed a line at their wedding. Invitations, future showers, weekends. Let's do Napa evaporated. Emily went public with the 10 seconds tagging Rachel and Jake, adding a measured note. Years of disrespect end here, not rage receipt. Comments turned from "Are you okay?" to "Yikes," then to "Quiet," which is the internet's version of turning your chair. A couple of my buddies texted, "Saw it. We've got your back." I thanked them and didn't pile on. Reputation is a bank account. They'd overdrawn theirs. Jake's swagger lost its soundtrack. A client backed away. Rachel's PR circle, fluent in optics, chose distance. Older men understand leverage when facts arrive. Lawyers sharpen pencils. Mine called with a voice like a locked file cabinet. The clip changes the landscape. We'll keep it simple, fast, and clean. The climax was a calendar alert Monday 9 a.m. Papers moving. Not vengeance procedure with teeth. I didn't celebrate. I reset. I asked a realtor friend to list the house I once thought I'd die in. He walked through and said, "It shows well. Houses don't lie. People do." We touched up paint, fixed a squeaky return, planted new azaleas out front because first impressions deserve respect. An offer landed in a week. I signed with a pen that's seen more utility bills than birthdays. Then I bought a small condo downtown, concrete glass, a balcony that catches the morning over Lady Bird Lake. First night there, I ate takeout on a moving box and watched runners on the trail become fireflies. Cooper curled up by the sliding door like he'd been waiting for this window all his life. I slept with the TV off and woke before my alarm. Men my age will know this piece, the kind that doesn't announce itself. The climax was a key turning and the quiet answering back, not empty available. The rest of my life could fit here. 6 months is a strange amount of time, long enough for rumors to get tired, short enough to remember every detail clearly. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. My lawyer called it efficient. I called it oxygen. Rachel's circle went quiet, then thinner. Jake learned how fast a handshake can cool when truth is public. I didn't cash in on their losses. I cashed in on my mornings. The condo faces the trail. At sunrise, runners look like moving punctuation turning the night into a sentence that ends in light. Cooper naps by the balcony door, chin on pause, keeper of the breeze. I learned a new ritual: coffee, 10 pages of a book, phone on the counter face down. Friends who matter still knock. The rest let themselves out. Peace isn't dramatic. It's repeatable. The climax of this stretch is simple. A Sunday afternoon, laundry folded, grill marks just right, and me realizing I hadn't thought about defending myself all day. That's what winning looks like here. Here's the truth I can live with. She called me boring. Maybe I am. But boring built peace, and peace is the loudest revenge. Boring pays the mortgage, walks the dog, keeps the promises you make to yourself when no one's watching. It installs boundaries without an audience and lets facts do the talking. If you're a man watching this and you hear the same laugh I heard, choose clearly. First offer, repair words, counseling, real effort. If respect is gone, don't burn down the house to make a point. Step back, move with steady hands, and build a door you can walk through with your name intact. That's not weakness, that's design. My final climax is quiet on purpose. I set my ring in a drawer I rarely open, make dinner for one, and feel full. If any of this sounds like your story, say I choose peace in the comments, or choose 1, fix it together, walk with dignity. Either way, choose on purpose.